Hello, welcome back. It's time for another retro movie review. We're going to go back in time and space to 1965, The Planet of the Vampires. Hello, my name's Paul Mount. You're very welcome to my world of stuff. If you're new here, if you've stumbled across this video because you're intrigued by the Planet of the Vampires, why not like and subscribe to the channel? Very keen to get the subscriber numbers up to 800. 720 odd at the moment. Be very nice to get them up a little bit. So please, if you're remotely interested in what you see here today, please like and subscribe. There's all sorts of content on this channel. Lots of Doctor Who, of course, plus lots of retro movie reviews, new movie reviews, all sorts of reviews on this channel. So like and subscribe.
Let's prepare for a landing, Brad.
Okay.
In a 40G gravity atmosphere, strange thing happens to man's body and mind. Barry Sullivan and Norma Bengell take you into the most fantastic science fiction adventure ever filmed.
Emergency! Emergency! Conditions desperate. Little chance of survival. Help us.
Mark, look!
What have you got?
The Elliot.
Bert, get me a fix on this right now. Wes, Brad, controls.
Planet of the Vampires.
Today's retro movie review takes us back to 1965, The Planet of the Vampires, directed by the legendary cult director Mario Brava. Probably best known for films like Black Sunday in 1960. Planet of the Vampires is a film I've been meaning to watch for donkey's years. I actually had this DVD back in the early days of DVD. I used to import DVDs because I had a multi-region player, and I was fascinated by the title of a film called Planet of the Vampires, and I imported this particular film. And I think I put it on once to watch it. It wasn't a great quality picture and it didn't look very good, so I didn't get much further than about 10 minutes. And I may still have the film in my collection, come to think of it. I must have a look. Anyway, it's just been re-released in a sparkling new Blu-ray edition from Radiance, and it looks beautiful. And I thought, I'm going to sit and watch this film because it has a bit of a reputation as quite an important genre film. And it is often cited as one of the inspirations for Alien in 1979, the classic Ridley Scott sci-fi horror, which continues to resonate after all these years. And in fact, there's a new Alien film coming out in a couple of months' time. Alien Romulus, and in fact an Alien TV series which has just completed filming and is due out next year, I think. So Alien is a big thing in the science fiction film community, and it's interesting to track where it comes from. Alien is often thought to have been inspired by a film called The Terror from Beyond Space, which I watched a few years ago, which is about a group of space explorers who find themselves transporting an alien creature back on their spaceship. And it has very much echoes of what Alien would become, with the creature lurking in the spaceship and picking off crew members. So there are elements of Alien there. However, Planet of the Vampires is much more recognisably Alien, because it very much is Alien. It's the story of Alien, almost beat for beat in a way. And I'm not suggesting any particular plagiarism on the part of Dan O'Bannon and the Alien crew. It's just that this film was clearly a template for what they did 15 years later. The film stars Barry Sullivan, an American actor, and it also stars Norma Bengell, Angela Aranda and Eli Morandi. And in fact, this film is sort of ahead of its time, really, because it's set in the future in a spaceship, and some of the crew are females, and that's something which we didn't really get a lot of in early science fiction films. It's very much a sort of a masculine domain. If you think of Forbidden Planet, one of the great early science fiction films that inspired Star Trek, the crew of the spaceship there were all male, and when they met a female on the planet that they landed on, it was all hormones ahoy. So it was really interesting to see in this particular film that some of the crew were actually women, and I think that's quite forward thinking. The film is set on a spaceship called Argos, which has picked up a distress beacon from a mist-shrouded planet called Aura. A previous ship that responded to the signal, called the Galliot, has landed on this planet, but all communication has ceased. They haven't heard anything from that ship. So they travel to this planet, but on the way there, the crew are suddenly possessed by some force that makes them want to attack and maim each other. They just turn on one another. The ship lands on the planet. The planet is wreathed in smoke. It's very dark and mysterious. There's lots of noises. The sound effects of this are really very creepy and very eerie. It really makes you think you're on an alien planet, which certainly helps because the production values don't make it work very well. They quickly discover the wreck of the Galliot and find that all the crew members there killed each other. They're all dead. Well, it's assumed they killed each other. They're all dead and horribly mutilated. Bodies are buried. Bodies come back to life. And there's some quite creepy scenes of the bodies are buried under these sort of metal plates. The metal plates rise up. The bodies have been encased in sort of cellophane. And the bodies are alive in the cellophane. And they are moving around and coming to life and attacking the crew of the Argos. The crew then discover another wrecked spaceship, which is from an alien civilization, which has also crashed on the planet years earlier. And here's where you see particular inspiration on Alien, because they find the huge skeleton of some alien-type creature, some sort of bipedal creature. And as they remark, it's a completely alien race. These things must have been huge. And of course, that reminds us of the engineer thing that we see in Alien, the great big statue thing that we see in Geiger's memorable designs in Alien. So these are all things that we recognise from Alien, and the deeper we go into Planet of the Vampires, the more it sort of resembles Alien in a sense. It moves off slightly when the story reveals that the force that's on the planet aren't sort of manifested as alien creatures. They are a dying race that's trying to survive by taking over the bodies of humans. It's a bit Invaders of the Body Snatchers, I suppose, to an extent. And it works on that old science fiction thing of the lack of identity and the lack of self when some force possesses you and demonizes you. And that's one of the great themes of horror and science fiction, is when you lose yourself to some other intelligence that takes over the human form. It's a science fiction trope going back generations, really. It's a bleak film. It's a very bleak, dark film that gets very engrossing. When you go into this film, you'll think, my God, this is cheap and nasty. It is. It's a very cheap, low-budget film, and Mario Brava had to work very hard to make it work on the screen with very limited resources. The spaceship set is quite impressive because it's quite huge. It is clearly a studio set. It's got a few consoles around the place, but it's quite a big, wide open space. The model effects are poor, it has to be said. There's a scene of the spaceship above the planet which isn't good. There's a scene where it lands on the planet. I mean, the effects are what they are, and they're poor special effects. By today's standards, obviously, they look poor, but I think even by 1960 standards, they were a bit sort of hokey. When they land on the planet itself, I understand that the planet set was really represented by two big rocks, and Mario Brava filled the whole soundstage with smoke and fog to create a real sense of atmosphere. And boy, does that work, because this looks really creepy. It is very minimalist in terms of its production, because obviously they couldn't afford massive planetscapes, so it's all very much studio bound. But the dry ice, the smoke, does create a real sense of mystery. And as I mentioned, the sounds and the music, the creepy music and the sounds, there's always ominous, eerie effects that really work hard to bolster what are pretty poor visuals on the whole. But I think this just goes to show, as with the best science fiction stories, the best any stories really, it's not about necessarily how you bring it to the screen. It's what you bring into the screen, the story that you're telling, and that can so often transcend any production problems that you have. You may have the lowest budget on earth, but if you've got a good story, it can work. I mean, I will refer, my lord, to Doctor Who in that regard. Famously, in the 1960s, they had buttons to make the show with, but some of those 1960s episodes are still classic Doctor Who's and still classic stories, because the stories and the scripts are what mattered. I'm not saying that the script of Planet of Vampires is exceptional, but I'm saying that the ideas there are excellent and ahead of their time. And as we've established, I hope, very influential and groundbreaking in that what they led to 15 years later was a genuine science fiction classic. It's all here in this film. The distress call, the hostile alien planet, the strange artifacts, the evidence of previous alien intervention, and of course the alien manifestation, not as this monstrous creature that we see in Aliens, but something possibly even more terrifying. Loss of self when an alien life form invades and corrupts the body. And it's quite a bleak ending as well. I won't spoil the ending in case you're going to seek out the film. As I said, it is available now from Radiance, and I would advise you to pick it up. And I would say look beyond the production, because if you're just watching it on terms of what it looks like, it won't hold your attention. But you have to go beyond that and look at the story and how much it resembles Alien. It really does. It is uncanny. Really good film. Really enjoyed it. Very unusual. It's one I will watch again. It's an oddity. It's an unusual film, and it's sort of quite striking, even though you're conscious of the paucity of resources available. It works. It's very haunting in a sort of bizarre sort of way, and I really enjoyed it. Planet of Vampires, incidentally, when it was released in Italy, it was called Terror in Space. In the UK, it was released as Demon Planet. None of the titles, even Planet of Vampires, doesn't correctly represent the story, but I think Planet of Vampires is lurid enough to attract the attention. Incidentally, when it was released in America, it was released as a double bill with Die Monster Die, which you may recall I did a retro movie review of, purely coincidentally, a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, Planet of Vampires, well worth tracking down. Don't expect all the glitz and flash that we get in today's science fiction. This was made on a tiny, tiny budget, in tiny studios, and it shows, but it just goes to show how important a really good story is, because this is a story that's resonated across science fiction and was massively influential on science fiction. A really good film, really interesting film, and I think the deeper you get into it, the more you forget the production problems and just get involved in the story and the characters. The characters are quite well delineated. The acting is what it is. Obviously, it's dubbed in places. It's quite interesting because it's a mixed cast, international sort of cast. Barry Sullivan, who's an American actor, he spoke his lines in English. The rest of the cast spoke their lines in their various languages, so I can't imagine that anybody knew what the hell was going on set. But it works. It sort of works. I don't quite know why. So really interesting and important oddity and a curiosity is available now on Radiance. Recommend it. Check it out. And I'm going to give Planet of the Vampires 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Planet of the Vampires. Right, thank you for watching this retro movie review. There's more stuff coming this week. I'm going to try and churn out videos a bit more regularly if I can now that my previous commitments have eased off a little bit. Coming up this week, we will have on Tuesday, probably Wednesday by the time I get it uploaded, will be a review of Long Legs, the new horror film with Nicolas Cage, which has been out a week or so. Finally catching up with that on Tuesday. And on Thursday, of course, is, I suppose, the big one, Deadpool and Wolverine. Not one I'm massively looking forward to, much as I'm a Marvel fan. Deadpool, I can take or leave, but I'll be going to see it, and there'll be a review up on Thursday, I would imagine. Plus other stuff, as and when. Thank you to new subscribers who've come aboard in the last couple of days. You're very welcome here. Stick around. Loads more to come. I will see you soon. Until I do, keep kicking the stuff.